Hello, welcome to the Claret and Blue podcast. I'm your host, Dan Rolinson, joined by Neil Dunworth from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Neil, thank you, first of all, for doing this when you've just done your own. I do not envy you at all for having to talk about this twice. Today's podcast, as always, is sponsored by NordVPN, and all the information you need is in the description down below. And now I would absolutely love to say I've done my job for this evening and end the stream there, because I don't want to do this as much as most people don't want to watch this. Well, there are 200 people here at the moment, which is double than I thought it was going to be to begin with. But I've already had lots of tweets saying things like, "Oh, don't bother, lads. It's my job." But unfortunately, I don't have that.
Exactly. This is actually your job,
Your job, yeah, which is a silver lining for me. But I don't want to talk about Villa losing games in that manner. And a lot of people will have just zoned out from this result until maybe the Cardiff post-match show. So see you then. It's just one of those proper bad ones. And I've had an extra 20 minutes to calm down, having waited for you to do your podcast, and I'm still kind of bubbling up inside. How are you, first of all, mate, before we get into it?
I said in my own podcast, I like to think that I can be pretty stoic in the face of defeat, as in, you regroup, you try and pick some positives on it. You obviously talk about negatives for it, but this one has kind of floored me a small bit. This because we've seen this performance against Crystal Palace for the last 3 years or 4 years or 5 years or whatever. We get turned over by Palace at Selhurst Park, and it's really annoying because this one means something. We've got very few games in the month of March, very few Premier League games. I think we've only got one Premier League game in the month of March. And now we've 2 games played on everybody above us, yet we're in 10th place. And we're like, so, I didn't jokingly say, but I was looking at the team at the league table, and I was kind of, saying people are going to say we're only 3 points off 5th place, but we've 2 games extra played. We don't get to turn that around.
We often get criticised for that, which I find quite bizarre. The league table is what it is, but you won't hear us saying, "Oh, we're only 5 points off."
Not a hope, because it's
the results have gone our way. Not interested. The problem that I said, and I've already been called a happy clapper tonight, which baffles me as well. I said a couple of weeks ago that top 5 would be a really difficult task. We need 68 points. That's winning 10 out of 13. That seems like a massive task for Villa to do that. And then maybe we're trying to kind of change our opinion a little bit with the Liverpool and Chelsea results. They're great results. The Ipswich one we kind of put to one side, but to get something against Liverpool and then to beat Chelsea, okay, maybe there's something in this Villa side that can put some kind of run together. Maybe we can find a bit of consistency and time our only run of the season to be at a good time. But you've got to back that up by beating Palace. Beating Chelsea means, I almost swore then. Whoa, that was a lot of me. Beating Chelsea means absolutely nothing if you don't follow it up with a positive result against Palace. And to lose in the way we did, 4-1. We talk a lot about our goal difference. Again, taking another battering. It's just, I put embarrassing in the title, and that was a choice of many, many words I could have picked. And we'll talk about some of the specifics about the team selection, the substitutes, Martinez, VAR, whatever kind of caveats you want to add to it. It seems stupid saying this 3 minutes in when we're about to have a conversation. I don't really care. I don't care about the caveats. We've had a lot of injuries, and it's the 10th centre-back pairing or whatever. The players we've got have got to be better. They've got to be better, Neil.
I agree. But I would be a complete and utter hypocrite if I didn't, because I've just come from a podcast with saying that context for the season so far is the 11 centre-half partnerships in 28 games. That is huge context.
Yeah.
However, we've still not defended really well throughout the course of the whole season, and we're not making excuses for anything tonight. Tonight will be very much a case of, tonight is file under potentially, and I would go so far as to say a lot of people would agree with this, is like Villa's Premier League season is, on life support on the 25th of February.
Yeah, agreed. I think, hot take early doors here, I'd be pretty surprised if we were in Europe next season.
We will, because we're like, you get back in the Champions League for winning it, Dan. Don't forget that, and you get into Europa League for winning the FA Cup. But we still have to play teams above us and all that. When I say about our Premier League season, I mean, like, it would be a minor miracle if we got Champions League, which isn't even worth talking about.
No,
but 7th place, 7th place could be doable. Other teams are going to drop points. Like every team above us can't continue to win. But look, we won't even talk about that. That's not what tonight's podcast is about, and getting ahead of ourselves and getting behind ourselves and stuff like that. And I brought it up, so I apologize for that. I brought that point up. But look, just tonight's performance was, I suppose, can we go back to the kind of the start of the game? And I know you're the interviewer. I'm the
well, I mean, we both do the same job here, don't we?
But like, how did you feel about the initial starting lineup? Like, what was your biggest bugbear about it? Because I know a lot of people were astounded and taken aback by the initial lineup.
Yeah, I was. I don't know whether I'll go that far. I was a little bit surprised, and I think I've said this on previous episodes. If not, certainly privately to friends and family and whatever else. I feel like you're paying, maybe this isn't the point, but you're paying so much money to Rashford and Asensio to be here, to kind of win now was the strategy of January. We're bringing you in to affect the following, 14, 15, 16 games across all competitions. You're here for now. Forget long term, forget next season, forget get into June's PSR deadline. You are here for the here and now to change things for us. Surely you start one of those players against Crystal Palace. I know they've only played home games so far, so it's a different kettle of fish to an extent. But these are experienced players that Rashford stretches the pitch potentially, helps us on the counter attack for Palace. Like, just gives them something else to think about. I was a little bit surprised to not see at least one of them. The kind of do we call it an experiment? I actually wasn't expecting it to be a kind of back 3, back 5 thing with Bogard at centre half and Garcia / Bailey being a right wing back at points during the game. I thought it was going to be Bogard and Tielemans as a 2 in midfield and McGinn on the right is how I thought it was going to play out when I saw the team sheet, and I'd have been relatively happy with that. It gives us a chance to change things up in the middle a little bit. You've got this kind of Bogard, Disasi, Konsa back 3 with Garcia for the first half, which, to be honest, I didn't think was that bad. Like, in terms of the selection as it played out, I thought, I can see merits to it. But then I know I'm getting ahead of myself here. Probably one of the most disorganised podcasts we'll ever do. The substitution for Bailey for Garcia
that to me is the question that Unai has to answer.
That's not like an anti-Bailey thing that I don't like him. I just don't know. I don't know what we're trying for that.
No, we were going back to 4-2-3-1. We were going back to our normal formation, which was strange because I thought we were pretty decent in the first half. Yeah, we go in 1-0 down. It could have been 1-1 due to VAR decision and whatever. And I don't know whether you want to get on to talking about that later. But I thought in the first half we were a lot more stable. The game was pretty, I won't say it was great in the first half. They didn't have a lot of shots on target. We didn't have a lot of shots on target. They take their first shot, it's saved, and then they score from the rebound on it. You could argue that the balance of play was very even at that time. So with that formation,
with Villa wanting to bait the press and Palace just going, no, we ain't doing that. We're not playing your game. We're playing ours, and that's something that I've been critical of Villa of before as well. Why are we coming to Palace and trying to kind of succumb to what Palace want to do? Why aren't we just going there and attacking them?
Very fair point, yeah.
Why aren't we playing Rashford and going, well, we want to be 3-0 up at half time in this because we've got so many games. We're going to kill it at half time, 60 minutes, then we'll make changes. I don't care about being biased or deluded or whatever from a neutral perspective. We have a better squad than Crystal Palace, and Christ, so we should for the amount of money that we've spent. Go there and kill the game with the attacking talent that we've got. Forget about trying to defend with a back 5 and changing things there and trying to be too cute or too clever. Play your best players in forward positions and go and win the game. And yeah, you'd say, oh, Ramsey's a good player or Rodgers is a good player or whatever, but just we've had a lot of money for these guys to sit around. Like, again, I'm getting ahead of myself here. With Daniel Marlon being left out of the Champions League squad and then not even coming on during this game. Like,
I had him pinned in to start. Dan, I had him pinned. Like, I had him if I was writing out the team, I would have had him in permanent marker to start on that right wing.
Yeah,
and be a contributor from the first whistle. He doesn't even
dangerous. Go to Palace and say, right, we're going to flood you with Marlon and Rashford and pace, and we're going to stretch it, and you're going to deal with
early.
us.
Yeah, get the game scored early. Get scores early, and look, could have backfired as well. We could be here talking about, God, what was Unai Emery doing? We were 3-0 down after 25 minutes. Of course, you can't go with all that firepower away at Palace. We never do well at Selhurst Park and blah blah blah. But that's not the conversation we can have because that didn't happen. But I agree with you, and I think every single Aston Villa fan was kind of like looking at it side-eyed going, But it wasn't because we went with Bogart midfielder. We went 3 at the back. I think most people were like going, why have we made a massive deal of signing these 2 players if we're not going to start them?
It's also changing what we did well against Chelsea and Liverpool as well. And I know it's a lot of games in a short space of time, and you've got to rotate. And the whole point of us making these signings was to have a squad that we feel comfortable rotating. But then we don't see that. We don't see that rotation. We don't see those changes. And we'd go to something that, I'm not saying the Ipswich result was good, and I suppose you could include Spurs in the cup, but you're on a little run there, being unbeaten at least. Things are starting to maybe click a little bit, find a bit of confidence. And then we pretty much throw that all away for Palace away, which is a notoriously difficult game, to the point of, I tweeted near full time that it'll be a 35-game Premier League season for us next year. Let's write off the trips to Selhurst, Molineux and St James's, probably throw in Old Trafford, to be honest, as well, and maybe even the Etihad. We need to get a certain amount of points in 33 games, never mind 38, because we lose every single season at these stadiums. Forfeit the game, don't bother going, save your travel money, save your ticket money, have a week's rest. We're just going to not play these games from now on because we never do well. So why don't we stick with what's worked over the last week or so? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I'm getting more angry as we do this now.
And you're right. Look, you are right. And I think as Villa fans, our league season itself has been patchy, and we were the signings of Mala and Asensio, Rashford were potentially a bit of rocket fuel, a bit of Nas or whatever, like Fast and the Furious or something like that, to pump us forward a small bit, give us that little bit of jolt, catch the crew ahead of us. But I'm not going to say it hasn't happened, because it did for Chelsea. But this was the time when you put your foot to the floor, I think. Now, once again, we're not privy to knocks, injuries, whatever the case, but like all these guys came on, and I know a lot of people the argument could potentially be made, but they're not fit. Rashford hasn't played 90 minutes in 90 days prior to that. I think if you're in with Unai Emery for the bones of a month, which they are now, and they've got 120 odd minutes under their belt, you're fit enough to play 90 minutes at that stage. So yeah, it's that's the frustrating one for me. But I don't disagree with the playing 3 at the back, and the reason I don't disagree with that is because you've got Konsa and Disasi, who wouldn't have had a lot of time together on the ground in training. It's a lot different to when you would have had maybe Diego Carlos and Konsa mightn't have played together for a while before, and the next thing all of a sudden he has to come in at short notice. They're still training together. Disasi still won't be up to whatever about the 2 lads not being match fit. They're sparkle players. They've got license to do a maverick thing, come out of formation, specifically Rashford does, or to do something cool and try and progress the ball forward and obviously score goals. You can't really do that if you're Disasi. So playing Disasi, he wouldn't have got an awful lot of work with the first team last week, because he would have been out for the Chelsea game. So certainly himself and Konsa wouldn't have been up to speed with each other. So maybe putting another body in beside them gives you that little bit of extra kind of protection there. It was one from left field, but I can certainly understand it. And as I say, I will stand over that the first half performance, we looked very solid, we looked compact, we looked good. We didn't look very inspiring going forward. But then in the second half, bringing on Bailey and changing the formation, every ball that came from their right-hand side across our left-hand side was a potential goal chance for them, every single one. And it reminded me of games we've seen before where that's happened. The diagonal ball has caught us out in certain aspects, and it's something we're going to have to learn from, and it's something that I think at the end of the season there's going to have to be a line drawn under that, and back to the drawing board from a defensive setup point of view, and see what we can do, from how we set up for those types of situations.
We're going to get onto questioning Emery in a second, which is apparently something we're not allowed to do for some reason. Just on the defensive thing, I get the context of you make changes at the back for 10 different combinations or whatever. You're going to struggle. That's absolutely fair. You never get to build any kind of rhythm, any kind of chemistry, whatever phrase you want to use to describe cohesion, whatever. I get that. I'll flip it almost the other way. We've had 10 combinations of various different players of different levels. How have we not stumbled upon a combination that actually works
11
and looks good?
11.
Is it 11? You think by now maybe we'd stumbled upon one that actually Dizazi and Mings, they are the best two together. I know you don't get the chance to play them because
you get injured.
But
You get injured.
it's so annoying.
Like, yeah.
I just don't.
It's not by choice.
I don't get it. I don't get it, Neil.
I don't know why it's
happened to us.
So 11 in 28 games, 11 centre half combinations. Liverpool at 18. Liverpool at 18 in 2021, and I meant to Google how their 2021 season went, but if you remember, like they played Jordan Henderson at centre half and for one game that year, you know. And I don't know how their season went in 2021, but I'd be surprised. Yeah, they finished third. Okay, 69 points.
It can be done,
but still, if we don't have a Mo Salah that will just bang in 25 or 30 goals for you a season, you know. Oh, sorry, no, that's the Premier League table as it is now. No, it's not. No, that was. But they finished behind United that season.
Season.
That would be considered a failure for them, I think, for sure. That would be considered a failure for them. But look, the reason we haven't stumbled upon somebody is because I think Unai Emery knows what his best two centre halves are, but they're just injuries are just keeping everything apart. And to be honest with you, I've felt even since, and this happened last year as well. You know, you're playing with. You've got four centre halves, and then a couple of them get injured, and then before you know it, like last year, we were going through the same situation where we had Clement Longley and Konza as the two centre halves, and people were on edge about that. You know, going into some European games, and we have players that, you know, Mings is coming back, Pau Torres might have taken a knock, and so on. You know, people were on edge about that too. So it's. I tend to think that, you know, throughout the Premier League there is an epidemic of centre half injuries anyway. But like Villa have been really cursed by it this year, and Spurs have been really cursed by it. You know, you look down through through a lot of the teams, you know, more than most. Like Mark Guehi has gone off tonight. You know, for did he go off? I think he did. He called for a substitution.
I can't remember.
That didn't look good. Looks like he popped his calf. You know, so he might be out for a period of time. Centre halves are getting injured more than they used to. Like I never remember Steve Bruce or Gary Pallister getting injured that much and having to come off. You know, they were always there together. You know, you remember the back three of the Villa would have had in 90, 95, 96 under Brian Little. Very rarely changed. The game is different then, I know, but, you know, centre halves have been going down at an alarming rate across the league, but Villa have been absolutely decimated by it this year, as have Spurs, as have other teams. And obviously, you know, I think Villa need to just hire a witch doctor. I think that's the only thing. It's the only logical thing that they can do. Hire an exorcist or a witch doctor or something like that, and just get that injury demon out of the dressing room, I think. Worth a try.
Let's discuss this. You know, you can never criticise Emery thing. Again, we get this levelled at us quite a lot for whatever reason. I don't know whether it's because John gets to go to pressers or because we're largely positive about Villa's aspirations. We'll often get posts about, oh, you won't question anything that Emery's done because he's a god, or, you know, whatever. We've questioned Emery many times on this podcast about team selections or substitutions or whatever. When people say things like, oh, when do we start asking questions of Emery? I replied to somebody on social media and said, in what sense? Like criticising the team lineup or substitutions or tactical choices to play too slow or play a high line or whatever. Yeah, absolutely question that. And we have done, and we will continue to do so. Question him in the sense of, like, is he the right man for the job? Absolutely not. I'm not even talking about that for any length of time at all. Emery is the guy, etc., etc. Any suggestions to change the manager? I don't even respect your opinion. I massively disagree with it. If that's what you think and you're a Villa fan, I just don't agree whatsoever. Questioning the guy, though, and some of his choices and whatever else, absolutely. Yeah. We've already spoken tonight about team selection. We've spoken a little bit about the Bailey substitution.
Should have started today, you know, like
exactly. And this result, as much as the defensive problems are a problem, and we are sloppy and we give possession away and whatever else, and that's not on Emery because he's not the one kicking the ball around. The setup and the style of play and ultimately the result is on Emery. He is the manager. It's his responsibility, and he will take responsibility for the good and for the bad. This idea that we're not allowed to criticise him or whatever, I just don't buy, because you can. He's a human being. He's going to make mistakes, and for us just to sit and go, well, actually, I really like the team selection, and you know, I understand the Bailey substitution, and you know what? I think it worked. People are just going to say you're deluded, and I'd be lying, because that's not how I think. That's not what I feel. And I feel like I've made that perfectly clear that this is or this result is on Emery.
I think so.
Is,
yeah, and
sorry,
I think it's because I think it's fair to say that players didn't show up tonight, but also you have 3 players chomping at the bit that have just come into the club that want to make the club, want to make waves for the club, and we didn't utilize them correctly tonight. Like Asensio came on tonight, didn't really see much of the ball. Villa were in the halfpenny place at that stage. Rashford didn't see much of the ball. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Morgan Rogers went up top. I think we looked so disjointed at that
That's
stage.
another thing as well. I don't think Watkins coming off was the right decision. I don't, unless he's injured. Oh, what are we saving him for? Cardiff, bruise. Like I don't know why Ollie Watkins is coming off with 30 minutes to go either. To be honest,
yeah,
he's a 90-minute player for me. Rogers up.
I don't know what I should say, but I think they do an Emery 3-1. We look, Ollie, take a break. Champions League this time next week.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, that's not great.
People, I look. I don't know. Once again, I don't know what the story is there, and people are going to like. There will be steam coming out of people's ears to hear that. I don't know if that's the situation. Maybe
I
Ollie's
felt
played a lot of time over.
Maybe he did as well. Maybe he thought we ain't getting back into this. I'll say, I mean, that's perfectly feasible. We'll never know, but it's perfectly feasible, and that does make sense actually. Because if you're wanting to get back into the game, Ollie Watkins playing up front as the main man over, bring on Marlon up front potentially. Yeah, get that. To stick Rodgers up there and have Rashford play behind him, that doesn't make sense to me. That's not the best way of winning the game from that position. So maybe it was a resting thing. I'd question Emery's demeanor. Maybe is the word.
I thought he looked really cross on the line tonight.
I think he looks like his head's gone a bit. And I'm not.
I don't know what he said.
Don't get this twisted. I'm not suggesting he wants to leave or he's unhappy with the hierarchy, or don't even go in those directions. But just the way he acts on the touchline. We've spoken a lot in the months that he's been here, or the years that he's been here, about him being a classy operator, keeps his cool, getting the fourth officials here, doesn't argue with the opposition side. We're seeing that more and more over the last few weeks, that he is having to go at the fourth official. He is kind of gesturing towards the opposition bench. He's getting into tiffs at Newcastle United away. Like, he looks angry. He looks pissed off. He looks fed up, and absolutely you could understand why, considering what he's seen on the pitch in front of him. But he looks like he's just a bit of a headless chicken at times. And I don't think that's a great look for him and what that says to his players. That if he's like, player misses a chance and he's punching the dugout, that's not Unai Emery that we're used to. And that concerns me a little bit, because you just wonder, how many times have you seen managers throughout the years lose the plot, basically? Pressure gets to them a little bit and they have this downward spiral. They make poor decisions. They'll continue to make poor decisions, and they kind of overthink things. Or, do you know what I'm trying to say? I feel like I'm making a really
I know. I know what you're trying to say. I agree with you in this game, but I don't agree with the extrapolation into the future.
I think we've seen it over the last few weeks.
I still don't know whether that's a total negative. I'm okay with Unai Emery giving the fourth official both barrels. I'm okay with that, because lots of managers do that. Like Pep Guardiola does that, and look, we could say Pep's gone and is having a mare this season or whatever. But
probably not the best example this season. But I know your point.
Yeah. So, but like
Look, I'd rather that than him be Ange Postecoglou staring at his shoes, looking down at a
that's exactly where I was going to. Yeah,
get the other side that you look to the touchline for a leader and standing there like with your hands in your pockets, thinking I don't know what to do here, is worse. But we've seen Emery be so composed and thoughtful. To see him kind of running around, losing the plot a little bit, is not the Unai Emery that I'm used to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I think that's definitely. Then again, could you also look at it this way, that he demands, like, he's a demanding manager. Everybody's been talking about the chances Ollie Watkins has missed this season. Everybody has talked about sometimes our passing isn't slick enough. We're all talking about this stuff week in, week out. That the players aren't doing on the field. If we're getting fed up with it, the manager surely should be getting fed up with it. Maybe he's he's like, I can't keep saying the same thing the whole time and not see it happen on the field. Once again, he's got emotions like every other fan. You know, he demands the best. This could be the only, like, we were talking about not getting into Europe this season. You know, what's his run that he's on and getting into Europe every
Like
season? Is
17
it
years
how
or
many
something.
times? Yeah. You know, this guy demands high standards.
Yeah.
And yes, we've also just said that, like, both things can be true. Yes, the substitution that he made for Leon Bailey and changing the formation. Yes, not starting Asensio and Rashford at the start. They're all on him for sure. But there are also things that players did on the field as well that are on them too, you know. And look, emotions are high. Emotions are high when you're 3-1 down, you're 2-1 down, you're 1-1. I'm sure he feels aggrieved over the VAR decision. I'm sure he feels
Yeah.
aggrieved over multiple VAR decisions. If I was him, I'd feel aggrieved about the penalty decision that wasn't given to Jacob Ramsey.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and they're not excuses. They're just things that you know, in the moment. I don't know how many people, hands up in the comments, how many people have ref their kids under 12 team or their under 14 team or under 16 team or under 10 team. You'll never see a beast come out in somebody until they're managed. Sorry, did I say ref? I mean managed those teams. You never see a beast come out like somebody when you're managing a team and you just want to win so much. So look, I think it happens to us all, and it's going to happen to Unai Emery too. But I would be concerned if we saw it, and if we saw him being snide in pre-match interviews and maybe starting calling out the players and stuff like that in public. I think that's where the issue would be. He's been very good at protecting players like Andres Garcia, who made a mistake against Liverpool. He's been very good at protecting, some players this year, and I think you have to protect in public and criticize in private. And I'm pretty happy with what he's done there. But you do make a good point.
Well, it might not be a good point. I'm just thinking out loud. I sit very close to the dugout and seen Emery over the last 2.5 years or whatever it is, and his demeanour is different now than it was when he first came. That's a fact. Somebody in the comments there suggested something that happened today, which I noticed as well. He said when the ball goes out and it comes to him, I think there was a time when he kind of kicked it back or something, and a fourth official had it, not today, previously, a fourth official said, just leave it or something. And from then on, he's always kind of, if he got the ball, he puts it on the floor and he'll just roll it. Whereas today, I think it was to a Villa player, to be fair, but he bounced the ball in frustration. And again, it's just one of the, it's absolutely a minor thing. Don't want to make this into a bigger thing, but the signs that Emery is annoyed, and rightly so, but I would expect him to be calmer. Aren't we calm? The Europa League, Conference League last year, calmer, and he's not at the moment. People saying we're making excuses. We can't win, can we? Here we are saying that this is one of Villa's worst performances of the season or whatever, but we're still making excuses somehow. But to maybe is we played crap. Yes, have we not said that many times? Just because we've mentioned VAR, which is not an excuse, it's a thing in the game that happened that is at a critical point in the game. I mean, if this game we lost 2-1 or it was a 2-2 draw or something, I'd have made a much bigger deal about the VAR Rodgers' goal being offside, for Watkins being offside for Rodgers' goal. I was going to put the screenshot up, which we don't really have the rights to do, but I thought, oh well, let's just do it anyway. Because I'm so mad that that's happened, but I'm so far past it now that I don't really care. I can't be bothered to make a big deal about VAR and the pixels on the screen and was Ollie Watkins offside by his leg hair. It just doesn't matter, does it? I don't want that to be the narrative. We were crap. But having a perfectly legitimate goal, in my opinion, ruled out, of course that's going to change the game.
And look, I said it in my own podcast, and I like drawing vector lines and stuff like that from photographic images. In a previous job I did, I had to do that and I had to be ultra specific, and we had super high quality photographs and super high quality technology that allowed us to do that. There is no way in the world, and look, without going into too much, I know what I'm talking about here. There is no way in the world that Stockley Park have good enough image from what they have there to pick the pixel to be able to draw a line like that, and they do not have the correct technology for it. They have the correct technology to draw a vector line from the vanishing point. All right, absolutely perfect, no problem there.
Yeah,
but there is no way that you can pick it. And look, I'm talking about the process, not about this particular offside. It's something it's been a bugbear for me for the last 2 years. And I would love to see that change. I would love to see, like, the semi-automated offside is going to be like I would not like when that comes in. I won't be criticizing it, and I won't be saying that it's a farce or anything like that, because it's not a manually drawn line from a arbitrary point. And that's just my only issue with the process itself, because I have previous in doing, obviously not I have, look guys, I've not been a VAR ref or anything like that, but I've done vector lines on and setting out stuff for very, very minute, and it had to be down, like we're talking about, down to centimeters, correct? Or so I know the level of detail that goes into it, and there's no way you can do it from those grainy pictures. You can't do it from a still shot of that camera. You can't do it.
We've spoken about this on the podcast before. Potentially you and I did it actually, and I mean, it's a very visual thing, but frame rates and things like that, if I keep my hand still and then move it really quickly, my hand, if you take a still at any point there, my hand is a blurred mess. For you to say where my thumb was at any particular point there as I move it across, you wouldn't know, because my thumb might be this long, because I'm moving so quick through a frame that is captured like that. So you can never tell exactly where the ball is. So when we are talking about Watkins looking like millimeters offside, 2 centimeters, 3 inches, whatever it is, we'll never know how small that fracture was. Fracture is not the right word, but you know what I mean. We'll never know how much that decision was. Do you know what I mean? If he's 2 millimeters offside, but the ball is 5 millimeters out of whack, then you can't judge it correctly,
and you can't judge when the ball leaves the player's foot. Like there's just it's the quality of the photograph.
Variables, yeah,
too many variables. And look, we're not saying that's why Villa lost the game tonight. This is a comment on VAR and drawing the vector lines from the vanishing point, specifically with the quality of the picture that they get, and also the quality of the line drawing software that they have. I don't know what it is, but to me, it looks like it was a bespoke piece of technology that was done specifically for them, and they didn't take into account certain things. And look, I don't want to nerd out in it, but it just looks too rudimentary for my liking, for something that is been brought in to be a specific. And if you're talking about making calls on millimeters or centimeters, it needs to be a bit more. The quality of the camera, the quality of the still shot, the quality of the vector technology needs to be a bit better than what I see on the screen, without knowing exactly what it is. That's just the process, and that goes for every game in the Premier League.
My frustration was the bed that the PGM OL have made for themselves to lie in, with the clear and obvious thing. That decision is not clearly and obviously wrong from the referee, because he's offside by 2 millimeters. If he's also, what advantage is Ollie Watkins gaining from that position? If he's 10 yards offside, he only gets to the ball to put it back for Rodgers because he's 10 yards further forward than the defender. To be further forward past the defender by 5 millimeters, is that the difference to Ollie Watkins getting the ball or not? Of course it isn't. So why are we even? What advantage is Ollie Watkins? I can't be bothered. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's not why we lost the game.
No matter how many times we said that we're not blaming VAR for this, we're having a discussion about VAR in general.
It's a wider point on the implementation of the rules, or the technology is clearly not up to the standard that the Premier League require it to be, and that's
it's the one time in the game of football where I have had a professional expertise in that I can actually talk about. So apologies for dragging you down that line. Everything else I have is just hobby related, but this is the one professional expertise that I potentially had and I could bring to the table. I felt a small bit like Kieran Maguire there for a while. Maybe it was the wrong time to bring it out. Bring out that bit of niche kind of technical information, but I don't know.
It's good to get some actual insight onto the podcast for a change. Instead of just waffle. Right, I think we're probably just about done here. We've done 33 minutes. I mean, there's 700 people watching, which is unbelievable. I didn't think there'd be anywhere even half of that for this one. And for those that have caught up on catch up, thanks as well, because there's plenty of Villa podcasts like the guy sitting opposite me that you could go and listen to as well instead of this one. So thanks for choosing ours. If you have come over and got our thoughts as well. I think just to wrap up, I don't want to do bigger picture stuff that, we might still finish for the Europa Conference League or whatever else, but there's so much pressure on the FA Cup now. It's ridiculous. Like, I see so often things like, we're Premier League season this year, if we can finish in the top 10, great, that's cool. Let's just go and win the FA Cup though. Like, it's such a flippant kind of like, let's just go and win a trophy, the trophy that we've not won for God knows how long, 70 odd years or something stupid. Let's not forget the form. If we play like we did tonight, we won't get past Cardiff for a start. But we get anybody away from home in the quarterfinal, and our away record suggests to you that we're probably going to lose, like our away record this season is pretty horrendous, to just say, oh, let's just go and win the FA Cup then just puts massive pressure on it, humongous pressure. And if that's what this season rests upon now, an FA Cup win, something we've not done since 1957, what happens if we don't win it is what I'm concerned about. Let's say we finish 9th, lose in the quarter-final, and we lose to Bruges next week, the season's over, then what? Is it Emery outstage at that point? Are we that fickle? I find it a little bit strange that we're putting that much pressure on the Champions
League. You can't sack him out because if we don't win the FA Cup, then we're going to win the Champions League.
I admire your optimism, Neil. I really do. It's utterly deluded, but
I was teeing that one up for ages. I was letting you speak.
Right, let's just end it there. We'll see what happens with Cardiff. We might do a preview at some point before Friday. Depends. I'm not sure yet. We'll certainly do a post-match show on Friday night, so maybe that is the next episode that we do. Thanks to everyone for joining us live on YouTube this evening on Tuesday. Thank you, Neil, for doing 2 podcasts back to back. You're an absolute legend. I'm sorry you didn't get to talk about a more fun result than that, because that was a bit of a slog, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I felt like I calmed down a little bit.
I was even feeling bad about talking about it 2-1 then, and then when I was 4-1, I went, oh my God.
I mean, we've not spoken about the goal specifically. Past 2-1, I'm not really bothered. I'm not talking about Bateta kicking the corner flag and goal music. Oh God, no, let's not go there. Right, thanks everyone for watching or listening to this episode of the Climate Podcast. Keep your eye on our social media feeds and subscribe on YouTube, and you'll get notifications for our next episode. Might be a Cardiff preview. If not, it'll certainly be the post match. So we'll see you then. Cheers, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week if you can.